Hello, hello. Hi there, everyone. Welcome to Taji, the Teacher's Teacher. We're super excited because we are about to have our live series. Yes, the live series is happening right now as it pertains to, teacher talk, some advice from an OG. And what I mean by OG is that we have teachers who have experienced the classroom, who has went through all the things, right? And who has little nuggets of wisdom that they would like to share with the incoming educators. And this particular episode is super important to me because I remember when I was a first year teacher. I remember when I just can recall all the different things that we used to have going on as it pertains to just the challenges of education. And I had a few OGs who pulled me in, right, and helped me to make sure that I'm able to do all the things that I kind of had anxiety about, right? So I don't want anybody else to feel like that. So I just wanted to provide a space, just 30 to 45 minutes of us just exchanging wisdom with some new teachers out there. Okay. So super excited. Again, my name is Taji, the Teacher's Teacher. I have been teaching or in education for about a decade. I specialize in helping teachers confidently convey their content in a clear and concise manner. You see what I did there? Yes. All right. So that's what I do. I support teachers and I support businesses in creating their message to make it so simple and so palatable so that it can be something where they can benefit from, right? And they can continue to grow. But today, we got something in store. Today, I'm actually pushing in and pulling in one of my friends and one of my favorites. I call her Miss Rubio. Well, we all gonna call her Miss Rubio, but I have a special nickname that you cannot use. Okay. Okay, you cannot use. So do not text her this, okay? But she's my Ruby, okay? And she's my gym, and she's one of the teachers that I had really had an amazing encounter with when I had the opportunity to co-found a personalized learning middle school. And boy, oh boy, was it tough? Absolutely. Did we come in with the intent to make a significant impact? Yes, we did. And did we come together to make sure that our kids got everything that they needed? Yes. So one thing I noticed about Miss Rubio, and I hope I'm still going. All right, I'm back. All right. So one thing I noticed about Miss Rubio is that she learners. When I tell you a gym, listen, she got all the juice. All right. And so we are here to listen to some of the gems that we want she's going to share with us as it pertains to really truly supporting our bilingual learners. So let's go ahead and welcome Miss Rubio in the room. Come on, Miss Rubio. Let's get you in here, girl.
Hey, Chachi. Thank you for that warm welcome. As usual, you always include me and feel me very, very welcome. I really appreciate it. I'm
Hey,
very
I'm
happy.
super excited you're here, girl. I'm super excited that you're here. And I just want to share with some of our new teachers, some of our novice teachers who's been in the game less than 5 years, or 3 years or so. What's your magic? What is your ESL magic? And how are you able to get our kids learning?
Okay, well, first of all, a little bit about me. I've been in education for a little bit over a decade, just as you. Um, and I started education as a second grade teacher and moved up all the way to sixth grade. And I've taught math, science, reading, language, you name it, in a monolingual setting, helping those ESL students, and in the bilingual setting, one way and two way, which is another beast. Um, but one of the main things that, students need to feel really seen if students are not seen and not get identified and do not make those connections with the teachers, they will not produce, they will not engage, and then they will fall through the cracks. So for me, being a Latina, that was one of my main purposes, making sure that I connected with my community, because most of the times those are the not so well helped or deserved communities. So that
Mhm.
was really one of my main purposes.
That's good. And you know what? Thank you for sharing that. And I felt it when I walked into your room. Let me tell you, not only was she organized and kept herself together, but baby, she gave Big Mama vibes. Okay, like, she do not come up in there halfway stepping, and she held all of her students accountable.
Yes.
And it did not matter what
That
language
was a hard.
barrier. Yeah, it did
Yes.
not matter the language barrier. Everybody was expected, and your expectations were extremely high, yet I would say manageable. And the kids knew that you were there for them. They definitely knew. So
Yes.
tell me, like, as it pertains to some of the resources or best practices, what is some things that a brand new teacher can implement and be able to apply to their lesson, in their bilingual lesson or in their lesson as it pertains to some ESL scholars in the classroom?
Yes. Well, first of all, I think before getting to know their students physically, I
Mm-hmm.
think if they look at their data, once they are shared with the roster, they can look. We're in Texas, so we know that we have TELPAS scores. And the
Mm-hmm.
TELPAS scores kind of let us know what level of English that there are. Are they beginners? Are they intermediate, advanced, or advanced high? So knowing where their English level at is going to help you
Mm-hmm.
try to better support, and that will define also the strategies that you will use or the technology that you will use to be able to communicate, because it is not the same to communicate with a newcomer, a beginner in English that only knows how to say hi,
Mm-hmm.
versus somebody that is been in the country for 3 years and can get by with verbally speaking to them. So knowing that part of your students, that is the first main basic thing. And I know that sometimes you don't get your rosters entered 2 days after you are teaching, so it is really hard to get to do that. But within the first couple of weeks, having those conversations with the students, trying to figure out, is it a language barrier, or is it there's something different? Is it an IEP? Is it a 504 that you need to be aware of? Now, most of the strategies that we use for dual language or ELL learners are best practices and can be used for IEP students, for 504 students,
Yes.
anything, because all of those strategies do not, oh no, you can only use this with ELL students, or no, you can only, no, it's best
Yeah.
practices at all.
I
So
agree. I'm
once,
glad you mentioned that. So glad you mentioned that. But go ahead. Yes.
yes. So another thing is that when you're learning, or when your first language is not English,
Mm-hmm.
many people, and I want to make this clear, because this is my personal experience with my personal, and many people close to me have experienced this.
Mm-hmm.
People that only know English and they hear somebody else speak English and they have an accent, or they're not able to communicate, they assume that person is not smart. It is not, they are not intelligent. When at the same time, that person is learning two languages and it's very difficult to convey what they want to say if they don't have the vocabulary. And when
Mm-hmm.
you're learning a language, the first language that you acquire is the social language, and it's verbal. You first start listening, trying to comprehend, and then you start little by little speaking. But the
Mm-hmm.
academic language, you don't actually gain it 100% until 7 years. So
Oh wow.
when you have, yes, when you have those students that have been in the country for 3 years and they can get by, and I'm saying they
Mm-hmm.
can mask and they
Yeah.
can, assume that they know, they actually don't, because they do not have the academic vocabulary. That's where, oh, but I thought he understood it. That's why their scores are low. No, until they
Mhm.
get that academic vocabulary after 7 years, then you will see that, oh, it actually then matches and they can communicate in both languages equally. So that's something that I really want to make emphasis. Just because sometimes they have an accent or because they cannot communicate, think about what is their level of vocabulary, and that will help a lot. Now,
Yeah.
regarding technology, it all has to do, Taji, I love to use technology. And
Yes.
we were really good about using technology and using it purposefully. And that is
Yeah.
one thing that you need to do. You need to have a purpose in mind, an outcome in mind. Just to use technology, it's not going to work for the students. You have to
Mhm.
have a purpose and an objective of what you want to learn and how they're going to demonstrate that learning.
Yeah.
And every day there's a new app, every single day. And there's a long list, and you will never finish listing all of them. So I'm just going to start listing the most common ones, um, that are Google for Education. All of the Google apps are very language learner friendly. If you have a new beginner, a newcomer in your classroom, you can teach them how to use Google Translate. Get on a Google document, press the text to speech. It will be writing all of what you are saying, and then teach the student to translate that document into their native language. It could be Spanish, it could be Russian, it could be any language. And then the student will be able to go back and I don't know, Taji left. Can you guys let me know if I'm still live, please? I think we're having technical difficulties. Sorry about this. Can somebody chat with me just to know that I am live? Hey. Hello, hello. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Busas. Yes. So I was talking, there's a lot of applications. So as I was saying, you can use Google Docs, have the students put up a Google Docs and do the text to speech. You can always teach them to do that. And then you can have, get that document and have it Google Translate for like in a step. And it will create a new document with that translation of your class. You can use, there's an extension which is Read and Write. I believe there's some part of it that is free, but if your district pays for it, use it. And this is very good for the students that have IEPs, that have dyslexia. It will do text to speech, speech to text. They can highlight. It has a dictionary in there. It has a lot of little functions that it will even help them practice reading out loud. A really cool one, and this is for your more advanced students, it's Paradeck, but the flashcard factory. Now, the cool thing about this one is that you create a word bank, and it's very similar to the Freire diagram. So you create the words, you create teams, and I recommend you write the definition of those words, and then you have the students work in teams or in pairs, where they will be having to hand draw a picture, with their finger. They can have colors in there, and another student can write down an example of that. For example, the water cycle. What is precipitation? You can have a student draw the picture of precipitation, and then another student giving an example of it. After you have all your flashcards from the students, you go to a vetting processes, and it will automatically export to a game kit, which is game simulation that is very similar to Kahoot. And the student, it comes full circle because the students will practice the vocabulary using what they actually did. There's a lot of websites that already have, especially Spanish integration. For example, Nearpod, Dreambox, Canva. Canva is really good because you can make storyboards or animations and video animations, and you don't have to worry about images with having to pay for those images. These are free. And you also have Cami, which you upload PDFs and you write on top of them. You have Formative, also Formative for your IEPs. There's a function, if you have the pay subscription, where you can read the questions and it will save the questions. So for those students that you have a reading accommodations, you can have that, and then they will just put their headphones on and it will go through. You have Classroom Screen. I love that Classroom Screen. Hi, Tati, you're back.
I'm back.
Um,
You rolling, Ruby.
okay. We have also Classroom Screen, which is just an agenda that you can pop up in your board, and it can be in English or in Spanish. And you can put a timer, you can put a background, you can type down your agenda. And if you have the pay version, which I usually paid for the whole year because it was just made my life easier when I was in middle school, because I will have a page per period. So I will just change the page, and I had that already and ready to go. And it just makes it a lot easier to move on. Now, if you teach science or social studies, there's a lot of websites that if your school district provides those, for example, Brain Pop and Espanol, they have the same videos in English and in Spanish. For example, you can find the water cycle in English and the water cycle in Spanish, and that will help with vocabulary. And if you're teaching that, the only thing is that not all of the videos are in both languages, and it's a translation, so it is not an authentic video. So you also have to keep that in mind, but it does help.
And these are some really good resources as it pertains to like Canva, Brain Pop, even like the translation. So Pear Deck. Yes. So I do have a quick question about those resources. Yes. How do you feel about a teacher just, giving a kid Google Translate?
So you do have to be careful. You do have, and it goes from grade level to grade level, the age of the student and the education that they have received. Because as you know, sometimes you get newcomers that have almost to zero education and they're in middle school where they're learning how to read and write. So that will also have to be, depending. But if you have a conversation with those students and teach them the step by step, they will figure it out and will actually be doing it by themselves. Now, there is a caveat. If you are talking and then you're talking, hey, Jimmy, stop bouncing off the walls, Google will translate that, literally. And then that can create confusion. But for the most part, it's an amazing resource especially for those newcomers that do not know nothing of English and do not have a system in place to help those students out.
Yes. And I have a really good question from the chat. This is from Mr. Fitzhugh.
Hi.
Hi, thank you, Mr. Fitzhugh, for your question. He says, how can you build a culture of non-Spanish speaking students and Spanish speaking students when they're in the same class, building that culture of collaboration?
Okay, so thank you so much. That is a very good question. In a bilingual classroom setting, when it's a
Mhm.
two-way, that is a given. We pair them up
Mhm.
with in a table. We usually have four students, and usually you have a high, medium, two mediums, and one low in a table setting so they can help each other. Well, on top of that, when you're in a bilingual setting, you have two English speakers and two Spanish speakers. So
Mhm.
the Spanish speakers will teach Spanish to the English speakers, and the English speakers will teach English to the Spanish speakers. So, and they need to collaborate, and they will help build that vocabulary and that sense of community and collaboration between them. But that is also part of the big classroom culture on how you handle your classroom.
Mhm.
Hopefully,
That's
I answered
good.
the
That's
question.
good.
Yes.
Yeah. And I can recall, like, the sweetest kids in the classroom are the bilingual or ESL, emerging bilingual students. And they'll sit in that corner and just shake their head, and you just really think they have it, right?
Yep. Yep.
And so, and they would just do that. And they're quiet and compliant. So they're not really being pushed to learn or use the language, right? So I just wonder,
Mm-hmm.
like, how can a teacher who is a non Spanish speaking teacher who don't have
Mm-hmm.
any background whatsoever, what is that first strategy that can work every single time that can help that kid go from nodding to feeling more confident about their voice?
So, first of all, you know, making him feel seen.
Mhm.
That's the number one. Now, if you know if that person comes from a Latin American country that the first language is Spanish, just say, Hola, ¿cómo estás? Hi, how are you? Like that simple, you know, and then start making those simple, very simple connections.
Mhm.
You can learn Spanish using Duolingo, just the basic phrases. You can have Duolingo for the students so they can start learning that English and having that, hey, I want to help you. And they will know if you really mean it. If you're
Mhm.
just doing it just because,
Mhm.
we all know, you know, when you don't mean it. And the
Mhm.
students feel it. And as it is, they already feel. Imagine you going to China to study
Mhm.
Chinese or just to study, and you do not know the language, and you're very different from everybody else. You already feel not the same, and you already feel like, I'm not sure if I fit in here. I'm not sure if I'm going to be, you always have that defense mechanism. So when you try to integrate them and try to make them feel welcome, and they know that that's a safe space in the
Mhm.
school, it's going to open up a lot of it. Just those little things, those little details that you think it's not making a difference, it will make a difference.
Yeah, you're right about the safe space because I remember some of the kids in my classroom. I like music. Okay, we got the
Mhm.
jam. In order to keep
Yes.
my mood kind of light, I got to,
Yeah.
I got a vibe, right? So I would play some of the music they like as long as it was clean and appropriate on my playlist. During this smart start, we call it a smart start.
Yes.
And some of my kids, they be like, "Oh, Miss, I like this song," or "I like your playlist," that kind of thing. And I think music is so powerful too.
It
It can
is.
it can really bridge cultures together, and it shows that you're really trying. And you are
Yes.
absolutely right. Like just really just making a difference. I also remember when you said I really want to say have an amen corner with you earlier because you was talking about the same strategies that you use for your emerging bilinguals or ESL scholars help with your SPED kids. It help with your
Mhm.
kids who are tier 3 who need help in terms of like more pictures in your PowerPoint, right? More gestures
Oh yes.
when you're speaking, and then
Talk with
bringing
your
all
hands.
the drama. Okay, you brought all the drama to math, and now brought all the drama to science. And
Yes.
so it's being super animated, but being very intentional with some of the cognates that may connect correctly. bridging that into
Yes.
the PowerPoint presentation. And I noticed that some of the kids were really connecting with those images, even GIFs. They're so funny. But like
Yes.
GIFs really help with building the vocabulary. And so
Mhm.
that was just some of the things that I just kind of had to learn. But I mean, I'm gonna tell you a secret. When I first started teaching, I literally planned my lesson catered to my emerging bilinguals and my SPED
Mhm.
scholars.
Yep.
Everything supported them, and then everybody else, I just pushed them up.
Yep.
Um, but
And
yeah.
that's the perfect way. That's the best way to do it, because if you are only catering for your monolingual students, you're leaving behind all of your special education students, your 504
Mhm,
students, your
mhm,
emergent bilingual students, and it is not. But at the same time, while you're including them, you are also scaffolding and you're also giving enrichment to your
mhm,
top tier students. So all the collaboration skills. I don't know if you heard about the project that I was talking about. I really like that activity, and it's really as easy to do, and it gives them ownership because they have to draw the picture with their finger. They can change the
mhm,
colors, and so it is their picture. So it gives them ownership. And then the example, I like to do the definitions just because I wanted to make sure that they got that right and they were not using the definition wrong. So I would do the definitions, but then they will have to do it. And it was just make it like they had to work really fast in order for them to get to play the game kit. So,
oh,
you know,
good. Man,
yeah.
so I'm telling you, I told y'all so many gems. The main purpose is that we just want you to just get some of these ideas and add them to your toolkit. And the more robust your teacher toolkit becomes, the more resources you have to pull from. Because you're not
Mhm.
gonna always know everything, but as long as you have a robust toolkit, you'll be able to pull those resources for the individual learning needs in your classroom. So thank you so much, Miss Rubio. One thing I wanted to share is that some of the resources that Ms. Rubio mentioned, we're going to make sure that next week we'll have those available to you. And so I'll have some items for you so you can go ahead and get those free resources, and it'll be real easy, real quick. Continue to follow Taji, the teacher's teacher, and this is going to be resources that we're going to provide for you. And this is not the last talk, y'all. This is going to be every Teacher Tuesday in June and July. We're going to continue to have our teacher talks, where we're going to have the OGs come in and give their wisdom. Okay. Now I'm going to allow Miss Rubio. How can we keep in contact with you? Um, if we happen to have a question or we just want to see you shine and all the things that you're doing, how are we able to keep in contact with you and stay connected?
I'm typing in my email
Mm-hmm.
in the chat. I am not, I am not very, like, my social media is private, but
Okay.
I am in Twitter and LinkedIn. In well, not Twitter, X. It is at Vera Rubio One, or Twitter or X, and in LinkedIn, just look me up as Vera Rubio Marmolejo, and send me a connect invite, and I will more than happy connect with you guys, and feel free to ask me. I'm just not that outspoken as Taji, so my social media is
Whatever.
just private. But if you connect with me, I am more than happy to help answer questions, or if you want me to look over or give or browse storm. See, my bilingual brain is working now. Brainstorm some ideas on how to present
Mhm.
anything, or how to help bilingual learners. shoot me an email or on social media, and I will respond to you.
Thank you for that. I actually have one more. This is a really good question, and this is
Okay.
from Tanisha. She said, at her school, we had an increase. They had an increase of eighth grade ESL scholars who speak no English whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
30 last school year. So, what can
Mm-hmm.
she do to be successful?
What language do they speak? Is it Spanish? Is it, because I know that we had the last couple of years we had an uptick of Ukrainian students
Mm,
and from students from Africa and from Middle East. So I will ask first, what is the language? What is their home language? And if it's Spanish, just try to do those little connections. There's a lot of videos, YouTube videos that can actually represent whatever you, I don't know what subject she teaches, but that can
I
help
think
them
she
in
teaches
Spanish.
social studies.
Such as,
Social
okay,
studies. Hmm.
so that will be like, there's a lot of discovery education videos out there to help, but mainly just to connect with them. If they are from, I don't know, Chile or Uruguay in Latin America, find
Hmm.
out what food they like. What is it different from Mexican culture? Just because they speak Spanish, that does not mean they're Mexicans. And there are many different cultural aspects in there. So if you are able to distinguish that for them and make that distinction, that will be,
Hmm.
amazing. Now, I'm assuming they do have ELL push in or ELL pullouts. Get in touch
Let's
with
just say
ELL.
it doesn't exist. Let's just say, because I'm gonna be a realist. With
Okay.
some of our some of our public schools are really struggling, and they're not
Mhm.
having all of that push in support like we expect for it to be. So she teaches social studies. It is Spanish, and then a lot of the kids are just having a hard time reading and memorizing the facts and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And then I'm assuming she's from Texas.
Hmm.
So that means that's the social studies star for eighth grade, which is only comes in English. That star test is not in Spanish. And they have to know facts from Texas, the
Hmm.
history of Texas, and history of the United States. So that is going to be it's a lot of information to take in one school year. So I will just break it up, get a lot of pictures, get a lot of information, and you can have anchor charts and have them in English, and then put in a just with a simple vocabulary word, and have them look up that vocabulary word from English to Spanish so they can translate and write it down, because that way they will start making connections, especially with the maps. So when they have those map questions and they see that, they'll be able to make that connection. But I will not do the translation for them. I will have them do it for themselves, because that's the way they're going to make the connections if they do put in a little bit of work. Because if you
That's
just
good.
give them everything, honestly, it's too much information and it's just going to go over their head. But if they look for it, at least what they understand and they're able to translate, it will make more connections for
Hmm. That's good. Thank you. Thank you for that. You
them.
guys got some good questions coming in. And like I said, man, that time flew by so quick. That time flew by so quick. And I'm just super appreciative of us having this conversation. Again, this conversation is going to be available to you all, and there is a bonus. We will go ahead and get cultivate those resources and a vault with all of our content and some bonus content for you. So that'll be available for you next week. But again, this is another opportunity to just add something to your teacher toolbox. Okay. Before we get going, I definitely want to invite you all to the party because the party does continue. Okay. Next week, we are going to have our next conversation with Miss Priyan, who is also an author and a co-founder of a school. And we are going to talk about the teacher glow up. Okay. In order to be a good teacher, you need to reflect, revise, and rise. So don't you come to this party thinking you're the best person in the party. Not as a brand new teacher. Sometimes you realize that what you had planned is not going to necessarily work once you get in front of the students. And so there's this practice of reflection that's going to help us all glow up. All right. So if you're trying to get your glow on, join us next week with Miss Priyan, and she's going to help us figure out some ways to reflect on our practice. Okay. So before we leave, Miss Rubio, do you have any encouraging words for our new and novice teachers as they embark on the journey of this upcoming school year?
Um, do the good work, like be positive with your students. The students always look up to you. And even though you think they are not listening, they are not paying attention, they are. And at the end of the school year or the next school year, they'll come up, they'll look for you, and they will give you a big hug because they will know the difference and they know better. And you will realize years after what an impact you made with
Mm.
just a little thing. So, yeah. I
Thank you
still
for
get messages. I still get messages from my students from Ignite. So, yes.
that. Thank you for that. Well, my lovelies, I hope you enjoyed this opportunity to come together. Continue on with the party next week, the same time. We're going to be ready with Miss Priyan in terms of reflecting and growing in our practice. And don't forget to follow Taji the Teacher's Teachers for more. All right, have a great day and have an amazing week and summer. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.